Hi friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my spoiler-free review of House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. I'll tell you my general thoughts, who should read it, what books you should read before picking this up, and who I think will and won't like it. If you are interested in my feature-length spoiler vlog and recap that is literally over 2.5 hours long, I will link that up above. I do suggest you only watch this if you've either already read the book or you don't intend to read the book and you just have FOMO and want to know everything that happens. So there you go. This video will be spoiler-free. If you've seen the vlog, you know that I got sick towards the end of it. I'm just now recovering enough from that to feel up to filming again, so I did plan to film this earlier, but here we are. Okay, so House of Flame and Shadow is book 3 in the Crescent City series, which is kind of a weird blend of paranormal romance, urban fantasy, sci fantasy, and then some of the other kinds of fantasy that she's known for. The series is primarily set in Crescent City, which is a more contemporary type of fantasy world, but populated with lots of creatures, fae, shifters, vampires, all different kinds of mythological beings, and drawing on different sorts of mythology from different cultures in the world. I would say it's also a little bit different from anything else that she's written. Book 1 in the series is formatted like a murder mystery, which is interesting. It's not something I've seen her do before, and it took me a reread to realize that that's what it was. This is book 3. It is a lengthy tome. It is about 850 pages long, and it covers a hell of a lot of ground. Something to know about this book for people who got into Sarah J Maas more casually or more recently through the ACOTAR series is that this book is not romance heavy. This is a book that is primarily focused on plot and world building. We're getting a lot of information about the world, a lot of Easter eggs about the multiverse that she's setting up, and yes, there is a multiverse. I'll get a little bit more into that without giving away too many spoilers. Finishing up the major plot arc of the first 3 Crescent City books and laying the groundwork for future books that she's going to be writing in this series and in other series. So this book is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It's not very heavy on romance. Personally, I didn't mind it, but I think there's going to be a lot of people who are mostly here for the romance who are going to be disappointed. Some people like to call her books fairy smut. I don't think there's anything wrong with that or wanting books that have a lot of sex in them, but this book doesn't have a lot. The first sex scene is in chapter 50, and there's really only 3 full sex scenes in the book. So if that is what you're going to this for, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. Personally, I was pleased because I thought in House of Sky and Breath, which is the second book in the series, there was too much sex in not just in the number of scenes, but in the sense that all of the scenes just felt shoehorned in there to be sexy and didn't actually do anything to move forward. The characters' relationships didn't have enough emotional impact. And personally, your mileage on this may vary, but personally, I'm not going to Sarah because I want a lot of erotica. I want her steamy scenes to feel like they have some emotional impact and character development for the relationship. And I feel like in this book, we kind of had more of a return to form where that is what we got. It wasn't just sex for the sake of being sexy. So what we did get, I liked better. Again, your mileage may vary. People's tastes in this are wildly different. This book has a very fast-paced part 1. A lot happens, and a lot of information is given. It's the kind of thing as I was reading it, and I think you'll see this if you watch the vlog, where I was like, if I wasn't super into this, I would say this is majorly info dumpy, but I didn't care because I was really excited about the information we were getting. Again, your mileage is going to vary. Are you the kind of reader who is really into world secrets and clues, putting puzzle pieces together, the Easter eggs from the different multiverse of series? If that's the kind of reader you are, you're probably going to love this book. If you don't like that, if you're annoyed by the fact that she's doing a universe crossover, if you are annoyed by the fact that it's getting to the point where you need to have read all of her books, you're not gonna like this book all that much. So all that to say, I really liked this. This was between a 4 and a 4.5 star for me. I think I landed on 4.5 on Goodreads. I'm kind of in between. I feel like on a reread, I would be able to tell you better, but I feel like this just took over my entire life for a whole week, so I'm not entirely sure what my full feelings on it are. One major criticism that I'm seeing of this book from a lot of readers, and I shouldn't be surprised, is a lot of people don't like Bryce. And listen, if you know me and you know this channel, you know that I am a big fan of and proponent of prickly heroines. And I like bitchy women on page. I think that people are too critical of female characters who are not nice, and I think that that's what we're getting with Bryce. To each their own. If you don't like characters who are not nice, then this book may not be for you, and Bryce may not be for you. She isn't sweet. She isn't nice. She is bitchy, and I love her for it. And she talks back to people, and I love her for it. So your mileage on that is going to vary, but that is a major criticism that I've seen on this book. And yeah, if you don't like female characters like that, you're probably not going to like her. But I did. Also, and I guess this is very mild, spoilers for just knowing what we're getting into in this book and the first chapter, but seeing Bryce and Nesta interact was everything that I needed. Nesta gets a lot of shit too, and I also love Nesta. I think she is one of my favorite characters, and a lot of people hate her. So if you don't like Nesta and you don't like Bryce, you get a lot of Bryce in here. So be forewarned. She is a strong flavor. She may not be for everybody, but I enjoyed that. So what should you know or have read going into this book? I'll be honest, I think that you are going to get the most out of it if you have read all of Sarah's books. That means the entire ACOTAR series. That means the entire Throne of Glass series. Do you have to have read all of them? No. I think there are some things you do need to have read, but you do not have to have read them. That said, based on what she does in this book, I think going forward, you are going to need to have read all of them, or at least have watched very detailed recaps of them, so you have a pretty good sense of who the major players are, a lot of the details of the world, because this is only going to keep going. She's going to be expanding this multiverse and giving us more information about the connections between all three of these worlds, because they are connected, and we have that confirmed in this book. I don't think that's really a spoiler. We kind of knew that from House of Sky and Breath, but it's just further confirmed in this book. I do think you need to have read the ACOTAR series, and yes, that does include Court of Silver Flames. There are key pieces of information in terms of world building and plot and character development that happen in A Court of Silver Flames that are crucial to what happens in House of Flame and Shadow. So if you were like, shoot, I didn't want to read A Court of Silver Flames, I think you kind of need to. Also, that book gets so much hate. It is probably my favorite book she's ever written. But I get why not everybody liked it, because Nesta spoke so deeply to my soul and it made me cry. If you don't like Nesta and you don't vibe with her, you probably will hate the book. But there is some really important world building information that is critical to this. So if you really don't want to read it, go find a spoilery vlog and recap that will give you all of the information that you need. It's out there, but you do need to be pretty familiar with that. And I would say you're going to do well if you refamiliarize yourself with some of the information we get towards the end of A Court of Silver Flames before you dive into this, and some of the information we get towards the end of House of Sky and Breath before you dive into this. And I'll say I would be surprised if we don't start more fully getting a Throne of Glass crossover soon. So it might behoove you, if you plan to continue on with the books, to go back and read the Throne of Glass series, because it is going to become important. It's starting to become important in here. Could you get away with reading this without having read it? Yes, but you will be missing some clues and important bits of information. But you could also watch my recap vlog with all the spoilers that will note some of those for you. Or, go to Reddit or TikTok, because they're there too. So that piece of it, I think, is a lot about the characters how this book is functioning as part of the larger world of Sarah J Maas books. But let's talk a little bit about the writing style and the themes of House of Flame and Shadow. In terms of writing style, Sarah gets a lot of criticism from some people, and I think that's fine. There are people who do not like her writing style, that hate her writing style, and have made very lengthy videos telling you all about why they don't like it. That's fine. If just her writing, the way she puts words together, is not your cup of tea, I don't think this series is going to improve upon that for you. Also, if you are the kind of person who hates fantasy that uses contemporary language and objects, you will not like Crescent City because they have cell phones and pizza and use contemporary language. Like, this has more of an urban fantasy vibe, and that is on purpose. So in terms of language and the types of things in here, that's what you're gonna get. If you don't like that, maybe don't pick this up. That said, Sarah has rightfully in the past been criticized for lack of diversity in her books and mishandling that, especially in the early ACOTAR books. I'm going to tell you that I think that significantly improves in the Crescent City series. We have quite a number of side characters who are people of color. We've got queer side characters in happy relationships, but they're never the main perspective characters, and I'm not mad about that. Maybe some people are, but personally, Sarah is not the person who I want to write from the perspective of a person of color or from the perspective of a queer person giving us their romance. I just like that she's populating her world with those people in a way that she had in the past been criticized for not doing. I think that is something that is really rectified here. I'll also say that in this entire series, but especially in this book, one of the major themes is anti-colonial ideas. And we see that so much in here. And again, it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. I don't think she gets enough credit for, but it is interesting. This book in particular has quite a number of moments and elements that are really about the harm that is done when an oppressive colonizing force comes and subjugates or kills off or makes second-class citizens the indigenous people of a world and puts other people to rule over them. And that is a major theme of this book, and one that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about. We also have in this series these beings called Thunderbirds, which I think are supposed to be indicative of North American indigenous people. I don't know that I feel like that's handled perfectly. That is something where I have some questions about whether it could have been done a little bit better, but I do appreciate what she's trying to do in terms of drawing attention to the treatment of Indigenous people and possibly even to the forced medical experimentation that Indigenous and other people of color experienced. So I think there's a lot of nuanced things that she's incorporating in this series that are pretty interesting. Sarah doesn't talk very much publicly about her politics, and I think for understandable reasons, but I think you do get bits and pieces of it in some of her more recent books, in some of the causes that she's been donating to. Yeah, anyway. So I think that is worth noting. Another major theme that I intended to talk about and kind of lost my train of thought on this is the power of love and friendship and family and found family. That is a repeated theme that you are also seeing really strongly throughout the series, and you see a lot of that in House of Flame and Shadow. I feel like there's going to be criticisms of this, that it's kind of cheesy or it's too much, which to each their own. I mean, I can see why the criticism. I kind of liked it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was intentionally sort of campy. But, you know, like the taglines for the series are light it up and through love all is possible. And you see those repeated a lot in House of Flame and Shadow. And there are moments, critical moments, where what saves somebody or what makes things possible is the power of love and collective action. And I like that. I think it's hopeful. Sarah has said that she likes romances, she likes happy endings, and I think you see that. And again, like, I think people who are going to this book looking for something where the stakes are going to be really high, main characters have the potential to die, and things are going to be really realistic, that's just not what you're going to get here. And, you know, I like books that have all of those things. I enjoy books that, like, break my heart, but that's not what I go to Sarah's books for. And I feel like she gets really criticized for it, but I think that she is really writing fantasy romance in a way that is a little bit different from what other people are doing, but ultimately what she wants is a happy ending. Even if books like this are lighter on the romance, there is still romance subplots and elements, and that's still really what you're going to get from her. So don't go in expecting there's action, but you know, like, things are going to mostly end fairly happily. She'll sometimes break your heart, but it's not going to be as bad as it might be if you were reading like something darker, right? And as somebody who is fully invested in the current cozy fantasy trend that's been happening, I love cozy fantasy. I know it's not everybody's thing, but I love it. I like that about a lot of Sarah's books too, that she gives me these cozy, quiet character moments in between all of the action where what's happening isn't really important, but it's cozy and it's sweet and it's spending time with like things that feel tangible and just everyday. And that is one of my favorite things about her books. And I think a lot of people, I mean, you think about House of Silver Flames, the whole thing of like having a sentient house that'll make you a bubble bath and give you romance novels to read and chocolate cake. Like, yes, please, that sounds great. Again, not everybody's cup of tea. Some people are going to criticize it. That's not what they want from their books. But I think you do continue to get some of those moments in this book, which I'm glad, because House of Sky and Breath, we got fewer of those cozy moments, and I was happy to see some of them pop up here. Do I think everybody is going to love this book? No. But I had a really good time with it. I am a person who loves puzzle boxes. I am a person who loves multiversal fantasy with Easter eggs and clues and things that you have to put together, and this gave me a shit ton of that, and I ate it up. So if you are like me, that you enjoy that sort of thing, I feel like you will probably like this. I feel like similar things, even though the writing style and the focus on romance is a little bit different, would be like the Witchland series by Susan Dennard does some of this. The Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson is kind of like this. Again, not really heavy on the sexy romance times, but similarly detailed world building that has all of these crossover elements. So I think if you're into that sort of thing and you like Sarah J Maas's writing and you like the romance piece of it, you're probably going to have a good time with this. But if you don't want to read it, you think it wouldn't be for you, and you just want to know what happens, go check out my spoilery vlog. I break it all down for you there. For me, this was a lot of fun, and it really made me want to go back and reread all of her other books, because I haven't done a full reread of the Akratar series or of the Throne of Glass series, and it has been years since I read most of them. So I don't know, we'll see. It would be a big project to take on, but reading this made me excited about the thought of going back and doing a reread and piecing together more of the clues. I feel like I was especially maybe missing some of the Throne of Glass stuff in this book because it's been so long since I read some of those early books, but there are definitely ties. And that is my review of House of Flame and Shadow. Hopefully this was helpful and gave you some sense of whether this is something that you might enjoy, whether it's something that you want to pick up or you want to stay away from. And again, feel free to go check out the spoilery vlog if you're interested. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts. If you read this, did you like it? Do you hate Bryce? Do you love her like I do because she's like a prickly bitch? Let me know. If you like this video, it always helps if you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.